What's going on, everyone? This is Sheets, and we're here for an extremely early look at the DFS slate for this weekend in Nashville. And I'm only doing it early because I'm going to be out for a couple of days. I'm going to be making an appearance on another show on, I think, late Thursday night. But this is going to be the first look at the DFS slate. And again, I usually break it down into three separate videos. One, just kind of going over who the best plays are. Two, usually a betting breakdown. And the third video is usually a lineup construction video, which very, very technical and really trying to focus in on just managing the sims and figuring out how to play the 150 max. I don't think I'm going to have time to do that this week. If so, it's going to be, I mean, I don't know when I'm going to be able to do it. Maybe early Saturday morning, but we will see about that. So let's just go through this. It is a 12-fight card, and assuming that holds, that's pretty decent with respect to it being a good GPP card, especially when you have a main event, which might not be a lock. When you have a main event that you just kind of have to play, then you're really looking for 13, 14 fights to be a really good GPP slate. But with a main event that may, it's possible that it busts, it makes a 12-fight card rather manageable. And when we do discuss, lineup construction and things like that, we'll discuss, how kind of crazy we have to get to be unique. Now, usually in a 12-fight card with a main event that's not 100% lock, or without a fight that's really 100% lock, you can probably get away with not going too nuts. I do think there is one fight that is really a standout, and we'll get to it. But in the meantime, let's just start with first fight of the night, which is Fatima Klein versus Melissa Martinez. And here you have the highest priced fighter on the card, Fatima Klein, who also, because she is the highest win odds on the card, that being about minus 1,200, even VIG adjusted, minus 10 to 1. And unfortunately, her metrics are extremely poor with respect to fantasy scoring. Like here you have, well, I shouldn't say that. All right, you have her inside the distance line is plus 100, which usually is something we need if someone's 9K. If someone's 9,900, it's almost impossible to play such a fighter, even regardless of his metrics or her metrics, unless you have really, really good cheap underdogs to make lineups work. But as we'll see, I don't think too many of those situations exist today. So I don't think that Fatima Klein at 9,900 is going to be remotely playable. Yeah, she's going to win most of the time, 90% of the time. And yeah, there are variations where she gets takedowns and smashes really, but she's going to need at that price, 140, like 130 to really guarantee, or at least to make it, probable that she's in the optimal. So I think that she's really, really a poor DFS play. And Melissa Martinez, the unfortunate reality, she just doesn't win often enough to make it into the lineups. 10% of the time, it's really just not great. Let's put it that way. And look, if she were going to be getting incredible leverage over someone like Fatima Klein, like if Fatima Klein were going to be really high owned, I would say sure, put her in there sort of, but because of Fatima Klein's price, she's not going to be that popular. So I think this whole fight is just a pass. Okay, next fight up the card, we have Mike Davis versus Mitch Ramirez. And again, they're pricing these guys in a way that, at best, he's going to need an extremely good score to get into the optimal. And likely, it doesn't even matter what score he gets. He's probably not going to even be in the optimal. So 9,800 is just a really, really nasty price on a card, unless you have like one of those like replacement fighter situations where you have a $7,400 fighter who's a favorite. you just can't really usually get these $9,800 guys in with any type of efficiency. So, I mean, we'll take a look, but Mike Davis, forget his win odds. I don't really care too much about that. His inside the distance line is what? Minus 155. Yeah, I guess that's fair enough. And he also does have takedowns at his disposal. He's not going to get 9. I mean, he went for that against Borshev because that was the path to victory. I mean, look here, who's this against? Gifford? I mean, 2 knockdowns, 2 takedowns. I mean, this like if he gets this, then sure, but this is not going to happen all that often. I mean, even if things go perfectly his way, he gets a knockdown and a sub in the second round. 92. Even the Borshev 123, that's not even guaranteed. So to be great on this card. So I don't know. I think that this again, it's just probably a fade at 9,800. And again, same story. I mean, I think Mitch Ramirez, his win odds are just not good enough to get him into the lineups here. And I don't think Mike Davis is going to be that popular to get leverage. So I think that these first 2 fights are probably lemons. I mean, you have two guys that you could probably count on winning, Fatima Klein and Mike Davis. And maybe for a while, you'll be happy that you have these, those 110 points in your lineup or whatever they get. But I think by the end of the day, I mean, you're going to have to get just so lucky with cheapos to make those lineups work that I don't know. I think that this is not the way you're supposed to play. All right, Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Walter Walker. It's a very binary fight, I think. So you have Walter Walker, who, unfortunately for him, I guess, or fortunately for him, depending on how you look at it, he had his last 2 fights where he got submissions early, okay, and the both with a heel hook and both in the first round. So, in his head, that's his path to victory. But the thing is that, in a way, he showed good fight IQ because in those 2 fights, he was fighting fighters who had just probably 2 of the worst takedown defenses in the whole UFC between Junior Tafa, we'll get to later, and Dontel Mays. So the fact that he was able to get these guys down and submit them is not as big of a deal as it could be normally. And against someone like Kennedy Nzechukwu, who is much better takedown defense, I mean, I just think that Walker is just kind of asking for trouble in this matchup. I think Nzechukwu got much better striking. He's got a big knockout upside in this fight, and I think he's a very, very strong play. Let's take a look at the metrics to make sure of that. I have a feeling you're going to see minus 110 inside on this. Let's just see. Nzechukwu inside the distance, not quite, but plus 145. So I consider that fair. You know what I mean? Maybe it's not like a smash play because you really want more like, it's good enough. Maybe plus 115 to be good at 8,800. But if things go his way, like if Walker can't get him down, I think this is I think it's pretty easy pickings for Nzechukwu, and he'll probably get that knockout in pretty short order. Even in the second round, a knockout from him, if it comes with a knockdown, 100, 105, it's not bad for his price, so that's not bad. The thing, though, about Walker is that here's the reality. The reality is that he is only plus 175, which means he does win the fight a good 33% of the time. And the thing is that if he does, in fact, win, it will be because he got those takedowns. So his wins are going to score. So I think that you do want to play both sides of this fight. Now, this is not the big key fight that I talked about. We're going to get to that later. But this is a really good binary fight where one guy is going to be relying on getting the takedowns. And if he gets them, he's going to win and score. Or more to the point, if he wins, it will be because he got the takedowns and scored. And if he doesn't, then he's probably going to get knocked out and the other guy's going to score. So I think both these guys are really, really strong. To kind of tease this, if I were going to rate this in terms of a star, I would probably consider this a 4-star fight. And again, in my guest appearance, we'll be talking about that type of rating, I imagine. So Kennedy Nzechukwu and Walter Walker, I do think is a key fight. Okay, we have Eduardo Mora versus Lauren Murphy. Um, Boy, I wish I had time to do betting breakdowns for this week because I do have some good contrarian opinions here. But let's take a look at this from a DFS perspective. You had Mora was minus 600. Um, and let's see her price. Her price, again, we're at 9,500. I mean, now we're at least getting to okay pricing, sort of, but you look at her inside the distance line, it's plus 230. Yikes. That's really, really atrocious. I mean, the only way she's going to pay this price tag off is if she gets like a whole bunch of takedowns. Now, in fairness, she did get 5 against Denise Gomes, even though she lost 3 here and 3 here. So she does have this path to victory, Um, so she could get like a bunch of takedowns and score decently. Is she going to score well enough to pay off 9,500? I don't know about that. Now here, Lauren Murphy, she's out for the last year and a half, and the last time we saw her, boy, she got busted up by Jessica Andrade. Jessica Andrade had like 240 significant strikes or something like that. But in fairness, I mean, Lauren Murphy, she took the damage, she took the heat, she didn't get knocked out, and she did have 100 significant strikes of her own. I will say this. I think that I do think that she's live here. And the problem is, I mean, she is only, let's look at her price here. So she's okay. She's plus 500, which means she wins the fight 20% of the time. I mean, I have to say, I don't think that that's bad. You know what I mean? Like 20% of the time she's going to win at 6,700. I mean, I think, and considering that she does put up some numbers, right? I mean, like, look at some of her wins here: 85, 88 here, 88 with 100 significant strikes. That's not bad. I mean, look, we don't need much for her to win. And I'll tell you something else. I mean, in a loss, what if she gets like a bunch of volume, but then just kind of just doesn't win? I don't know. She is older. She's younger than me, right? Coming off a layoff, maybe she has it in for her here. Maybe it's a tough spot, but I do think that she's live. I don't know what else to say. And yeah, Mora is fine, but now we're getting down to the price where you can afford. But again, at 9,500, you're going to need a number, and unless she, for her to get like 115 or 110 at least, she's going to need a finish and takedowns, or like a ton of takedowns. And I don't know. I just don't know. Okay, Chidi Njokuani versus Jake Matthews. So these are the fights that you really have to respect, especially when the higher range is so high and the metrics are not that great. So you have to really give some extra credit to these 8,200 8K fights. We already talked about this that Kennedy Njoku fight. That's in the 8Ks, and even that's a little bit higher. But Matthews versus Njokuani, I mean, you probably should play both these guys regardless of what their metrics are. But their metrics are probably pretty like okay. Like all we really need for this price is like maybe plus 250 inside. And you look at it, it's okay. Matthews isn't the best at plus 330, although that's kind of an early line. But Njokuani plus 265. I think both these guys are very reasonable, and at this price, you don't have to be that greedy with how many points you score. And well, thank God for that, because I don't see a single, I mean, wait, there's 100 points. And in the past, back in 2014, he would do something, but so he doesn't really score all that much, even in wins. But you don't really need that much at this price. And even Njokuani is not really the greatest scorer in the world either. He had one huge one at 130, I guess, so he's got it in him. But and at this price, you're just going to have to play these guys. So I think that consider this a 4-star, I guess, 3.5, something like that. So okay, I'm preparing for this. So I prepare for my stars. So if I were going to do that, 1-star, what would be Mora? Excuse me. The Njoku would be 4. Mora would be 1. No, Mora would be 2 maybe. And then you have Njokwani would be a 4. It has to be, right? Just because of the price. All right, Chris Curtis versus Max Griffin. So this fight has everything going against it with respect to DFS in that you have 9,100, 7,100, and it's striker versus striker. So whenever you have striker versus striker, you're really just relying on the inside the distance line to kind of guide you. And you'll look at the Chris Curtis inside the distance line. We'll take a look. Inside the distance, plus 255 for a pure striker is just really, really awful. And Griffin, obviously, plus 500 is no good. So Chris Curtis is just an atrocious play at 9,100 here. I mean, as a matter of fact, I mean, if I would play anybody here, it would be Max Griffin. I mean, because you look at him, Griffin inside a plus 500, so that means 20% of the time he finishes. Well, I mean, you're talking about a guy, and I know I said I wouldn't get into lineup construction here, but at 10% ownership is what she's going to be, I guess. I mean, if 20% of the time he gets a finish, I mean, I know that's not exactly the way you're supposed to look at it, but that is what it is. So I prefer the Griffin side if I was going to play anybody here. But overall, it is, I guess, kind of a 1-star again. 1 or 2, maybe. Okay, Junior Tafa versus George Tokos. So I mentioned earlier that Junior Tafa has some of the worst takedown defense there is. So George Tokos, if he has a fight IQ, okay, he will go for takedowns. Okay, and apparently he does have some wrestling in there. So he immediately is playable. Okay, now you need the parlay. You need him to know he's got the wrestling advantage and actually institute the wrestling advantage and then have it actually work. Okay, but he's only 7,600. So that automatically makes him a good play. And Justin Tafa, on the other hand, again, since he's a pure striker, we're relying on what? Just inside the distance lines, right? So at 8,600, we're probably going to need like plus 160 or something inside, and I'll bet you we're getting that really easily. Let's see. Junior Tafa inside, minus 135. Let's go. All right. So what this means several things. And I said I wouldn't get into too much into lineup construction. But number one, this right away makes Tafa the best play on the board. At a minus 135 inside the distance line at 8,600. That is basically the nuts right now. What this means is 2 things. Number one, it means that he's a tremendous play. Number 2, it means he's going to be popular because of that. And number 3, what that means is that you're now going to be getting Tokos with extreme leverage. Okay? So you have a guy with a path to victory, and you have good leverage against what's admittedly a good play. So this, and I wasn't even thinking about this one, but this is another, I really consider this pretty damn close to a 5-star. So this right now is clearly the best one. I have this even better than the Njoku Walker fight, I think. So I would say, well, maybe close, but I'll make this the first of the 5 stars. So Tafa Tokos, definitely a key fight. Okay. Now we have Petrino versus Austin Lane. And now we have another big favorite, but all big favorites are not created equal because I believe that the Petrino inside the distance line is probably kind of the nuts. Let's see. You look at this. So Petrino inside is minus 500. Not to mention Petrino round 1 is almost a pick'em. So this is what you can play, okay, if you want to pay the 9,600. Now, again, I'm not saying it's going to be easy to put up lineups with this guy, but 9,600 at that inside the distance line, that provides a layer of safety which you can rely on, sort of, as opposed to something like, guys, other people we talked like Mora, Klein. Their inside the distance lines are not that great, and those prices are just awful. So I think Petrino is extraordinarily strong play. As for Austin Lane, I don't know. He first of all, he doesn't win all too much. The one thing I will say is that I mean, he does sort of have takedowns in his resume, but not really. I mean, he got him against Robes de Spain or whatever, but he's not taking down Petrino. I don't know. So I think that Lane is just a fade, and Petrino's a very, very solid favorite. Okay, fight number 4 going backwards. Morgan Charrier versus Nate Landwehr. I have a feeling this is going to be sort of interesting. Nate Landwehr, his win conditions are extraordinarily DFS friendly. Okay, he puts all kinds of pace, all kinds of pressure in his wins. I mean, look at his fight against David Onama, which was a couple of years ago, but still it wasn't like 10 years ago. That's the type of performance you always get from him. His last fight was extraordinarily disappointing. He completely ran out of steam and got owned by Doo Ho Choi in fine style, to say the least. But before that, he took care of Emmers in the first rounds, looks like. Right? But this Onama fight, even though it was 3 years ago, I mean, this is like serious shit. Okay. So if you get this performance from him against a guy who, I mean, he's fine, but Landwehr is a very, very strong underdog here. Now, when you look at Charrier, he's had some okay performances. He beat this I want to say bum, whatever it is, Zucchini early, a big favorite. Then he had a very nice fight against Jose Mariscal, who's really good. Took a bad loss. Bad loss. Tough decision, I guess. Gabriel Miranda, tough grappler. He took care of him in the second round. KO. Then he lost. Tough fight because a tough fighter, though. So Charrier is really good. See, that's the problem here is that he's very likely to win. He's minus 260, but let's take a look at his inside the distance line. Charrier inside plus, what is this? Plus 190? I mean, not bad. I'm going to have to say, not too bad. Not quite as good as Njoku, but not too bad. And considering that, Landwehr's not exactly defensively sound, Charrier can put up a number here. Does he have any takedowns? Yeah, so he's got some takedowns too. So I do think that both these guys are pretty in play. So Landwehr, I mean, let's take a look at it. It's not going to matter. He's just going to be a good underdog regardless. But let's look at his inside the distance line here. Probably plus 500 or something. Let's see. Landwehr inside is, where is it? Oh, plus 400. That's perfectly fine. That means like 20% of the time or whatever, 25% of the time he finishes. It's good enough. So yeah, Landwehr, Charrier, very, very good fight. I would consider this one another 4-star. And there we go. Now, this next one is a 5-star. Okay, Sergio Garcia. No, not Sergio Garcia. Steve Garcia against Calvin Kattar. This fight is just one that I believe has to be in all of your lineups, or all of your lineups, most of your lineups. Let's put it that way. I mean, you have both these guys with a inside the distance line of plus 170, plus 160. I'll tell you this: the Kattar inside the distance line. This one is extraordinarily surprising. I don't believe that this is the case. I can't believe that Calvin Kattar's got the same inside the distance line as Garcia, who's coming off of 4 straight knockouts. So we'll see about that. But the reality is that Garcia is plus 170 inside the distance. He is 8,400. Interestingly, his inside the distance line is not as good as Tafo, which is pretty interesting, and that's because the money line is just much tighter. But considering that Garcia does get a bunch of first round KOs, I mean, I think that he's just as good of a play as these others. So Garcia, Tafa, very, very similar as far as I'm concerned. And Kattar, I mean, like, you just can't deny that inside the distance line at 7,800. So 5-star fight, I guess you call it. Both of these guys, you just have to cram in there. And you see where we're headed here, right? I mean, you see the construction. I mean, they're these 9,800, 9,700, 9,900 guys. You just don't need them, because you could get ceilings out of these other guys that, yeah, they don't happen as often, but they happen pretty often, and you could get them all in your lineups. All right, Gabriel Bonfim versus Steven Thompson. Okay, let's take a look. Gabriel Bonfim at 9,300. He's going to need, again, an inside the distance line of about minus 110 or something like that, or minus 120 plus maybe some grappling upside. And I think you're going to get it. Yeah, Bonfim minus 130 is very, very strong inside the distance line. And also, he could get takedowns. And I will say this, that if he has any kind of fight IQ, which I presume he does, he's going to be going for them against Steven Thompson, who is really, really not good with defending them. So I think that he's a very, very strong favorite. I think he's very similar to Petrino. The Steven Thompson side of it is, I'd love to include him as a good underdog, but I don't know. I mean, compared to some of these other guys at the same price, I mean, I think if he wins, it's going to be more of a striking-based decision, I think. And he's not going to be quite as dangerous as guys like Landwehr, or even guys that could score as well as Walter, or forgot the other guy. I'm certainly not, and Cater and these other guys. So I think Thompson is a little bit weak. So I definitely think Bonfim is a good favorite. So again, I don't know how to rank the fight really, but I think that Bonfim is very strong. Is Bonfim as good as Petrino? I think that's a really, really good question. I think that Petrino certainly has the better finishing upside, but Bonfim's got the better grappling upside, so I think those even out. I do like both of them. And then you get to this main event, which, unfortunately it's going to be owned because it is, a 5-round fight. But remember, like, this fight's not supposed to go 5 rounds, so it's a weird fight because I think it would be the same. I mean, I really think you could handicap this as a 3-round fight. I think the chance it goes more than 3 rounds is extraordinarily slim. I mean, let's look at it here. Like it's under 2.5 is minus 475. I mean, the fact that it's a 5-round fight is just sort of irrelevant here. Now, I will also say that, well, we'll first look at the inside the distance line, then we're going to get to what I was also going to say. I mean, both these inside the distance lines are just incredible. You have Teixeira minus 215, that's just awesome. And Lewis plus 245 is just awesome. But I will also say that Teixeira's got takedown upside here. I think that's very, very in the cards. And so he's got plenty of ways to score. So this is another 5. I think this is another 5-star fight. I don't think it's like a lock. You have to have it because I went over other 5-star fights that you had to have. So, very, very strong. But it's not because it's a 5-round fight. It's just because it's supposed to freaking finish. Okay. All right. So to review a second. We'll take a look. There are certain fights I feel that are just worth ignoring, and plenty of them you need to cram. So I think this first 2 fights you could just not play. Listen, you have to accept that probably these first 2 fighters are going to end up with 100 points, but you're going to have to assume it's not going to be enough. But I think the Njoku fights is strong. I think the Mora fight's pretty bad. I mean, maybe Murphy's not as good of a play as I thought she was. I mean, why is Murphy any better than Steven Thompson? Probably not. So let's consider that fight close to a fade. And then we get to these fights you have to play, like Njoku Matthews. Just the pricing makes you have to play this. Curtis, I think, is unplayable, given his metrics. Griffin, I'd rather play him. And then you have another key fight, this Tafa Tokos, for all the reasons we mentioned. Petrino by himself, no real lane. Charrier Landwehr, pretty good, maybe a 4-star there. And then you have a 5-star in the Steven Garcia fight. You're going to play both these guys. And then Bonfim, good favorite, torn on Thompson, and then obviously this main event. So hopefully that helps. I think you're going to end up with a bunch of mid-range builds, which certainly is reasonable. And I think that is going to do it. Watch for, I don't think I'm going to get to a betting breakdown nor a lineup construction video, but if I do, it'll be later in the week. And we can consider this one the first one, first bit of content out there for DFS, I guess. Good luck, everybody.